So today we're going to talk about, we're going to start a series on analyzing the table and how you make your shot selections. This is mainly going to be a chalk talk, although I will break up a few racks and show you how it actually works. So with that said, by the way, I got Chewy here. He's wandering around. For those of you that are following him, most of the fur's fallen out on the right side and the front of his neck from the radiation therapy, but he's doing okay. Okay, table analysis and shot selection. So a pretty straightforward set of steps to doing this. They are identify where the cue is and where the object ball you need to hit is, and make sure you can hit it. From there, you identify any problem balls that are on the table. And what I mean by problem balls are balls that are in a configuration that makes it difficult to make the shot. For example, if the playing 9 ball and the 7's sitting behind the 8 like that, that's a problem. That 7 ball is unmakeable as it sits. Or theoretically unmakeable. I'm sure there's some ways to make it that are crazy and out there. But as a general rule, that's not a makeable ball. So you need to identify your problem balls. Then you need to define your goal for the series of shots. So if we had a table where everything was pretty spread out, played some big balls, so there's some extra balls on the table. Everything's fairly spread out. You got a shot on the 1. You know, this would be a runnable rack with the exception of that 7 ball. That 7 ball is the problem. So we're going to define the goal, and the goal here, what I mean by that is your first objective in the series of shots. And my first objective on this table would be to find a way to break that 7 and 8 up as early as possible. You always want to deal with problem balls as soon as you can. So in this case, we'll talk about this, but my first goal is to deal with the 7 and 8 because nothing else on this table matters if I can't break that 7 and 8 up. And I got to kind of turn that because as it happens, it was pointed straight at the pocket. Okay, so now our first goal, break the 7 and 8. The easiest way to break this 7 and 8 up is going to be to have the cue ball over here somewhere and shoot the 4 in and break that up. So in order to fix my problem ball, I have to get the cue ball on this side of the 4. Having the cue ball over here does me no good on that 4. If I get here, then I'm in trouble. Okay, so I need to be on this side of the 4. So to get up to that side of the 4 from this 3 ball, remember when I'm shooting the 3, the 1 and the 2 will be gone off the table. But to get there, I need to do one of 2 things. I need to be almost straight in here and draw, which is a horrible shot. It's very difficult to pull off effectively. You can do it. We all do the draw shots, but as we'll talk about when we start talking more specifically about cue positioning, a lot of times it's more effective to go around the table than it is to draw, and we'll talk about that. Okay, so remember the 1 ball and the 2 ball will be gone, so I really want the 1 out here somewhere, or maybe just over here where I've got enough of the rail that I can come out and around. So I need to be in this general area, but not behind the 5. So in order to get to this general area, when I shoot the 2, I need to be over here so that I can hit the 2, hit the rail, and come up and get my leave. And that way, even if I do run straight at the 5, I'm not going to get behind it. The worst thing that could happen for me would be to run past the 5 and end up down here right directly behind it. So I'm going to want to shoot this and come either straight up or even a little bit forward as I come up. So effectively I need the cue about where it is. right now. That would be a perfect shot on the 2 for what I want to do. I have an almost straight in shot on the 1. If I want to get that angle that I need to cross this line. But that means that I can draw back to here, and I should be just fine. It's a short draw. It's much easier than that full table draw. So now what I've done is I've said, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to shoot the 1 in the side. I'm going to draw back past that imaginary line I drew. I'm going to shoot the 2 in and come up and maybe bump the 5. That'd be okay. Then I'm going to shoot the 3 in and bring the cue ball around the table to get on that side of the 4 so that I can get the breakout on the 7-8. Okay, so that's how you work from the goal back to the current ball. Okay, then you execute it. You go ahead and shoot what you just said you were going to shoot. But here's one of the key things that a lot of people forget to do. You have to constantly reassess where you are after every shot. Unless you get exactly perfect, you're going to have to reassess and say, can I still do my goal? Can I still do the shot I had planned here? Or do I need to rethink that shot? So literally, those are the steps. Find the cue in the current ball, see if you can see it. If you can't, you can't. Identify your problem balls. We do have problem balls here, so we set a goal of breaking out the problem balls as early as we can. We work back from our problem, which we're going to break out using the 4 because that's the earliest we can effectively get on our problem. And we worked all the way back, and then we're going to execute, and then we're going to reassess it constantly. So after every shot, we look at it again and say, did I get where I wanted to get? And this is what that looks like when you come down to shoot it. So we said we're going to hit the 1, and we're going to draw back past that line. Okay, we're past the line, but we're not so far that we can't get our lead. Turn that for a second. Actually, we did get kind of off, but we're going to cheat the pocket a little and make it work anyhow. We'll talk about cheating the pocket when we talk about getting where we need to get. Okay, I am not where I planned to be, so now I have to reassess. And what I have to look at is, I start all the way back at the beginning with cue and the ball I'm on. Can I make that shot? And the odds here are that the answer is no. Which makes this really easy because I don't have to worry about my problem balls. I don't want to break them up because there'll be a problem for the next guy too. So this is where I'm going to play a safety. And the biggest thing I want to do with the safety is I want to split the table and make it hard to make that shot. And hey, if he happens to break out, he or she happens to break out that problem, great, because I'm going to leave him where hopefully he's not going to have a chance to make it. And I'll do that by doing what they call splitting the table. Unfortunately, I left it straight in, but I left it straight in a way that makes it almost impossible for him to break out those problem balls. The only way to get back on the shot is to draw the ball the length of the table from a close to the rail shot. I'd actually be happy with that as a safe. It's not a safe in terms of him making the ball. It's a safe in terms of him running the table. He's just not going to do it from here. The other thing is, if he's going to play safe on me, he's got to get on. He's got to get right in here. So where we were before the camera ran out of space is I had left the other player with this long straight-in shot. Now, if it's me, I'm looking at this and I'm saying, you know what? I can make that shot. At least I could back in the day. I could make that shot, maybe draw back to the end of the table, but it's really, really low percentage. So instead, what I would look at here is I need to, without messing up, I still don't want to mess up the problem. I want the other guy to deal with it. But I'm going to do the same thing to him, or I'm going to do the same thing to me that I just did to me. Sounds funny, but the idea would be I can't really make this and break that, or leave myself a way to break it up. So instead, what I would do is hit off the side of the ball and come around the table and try to leave the cue down here by the end. I could shoot this with right hand English, but if I do, I take a chance that I come too thin and come down and break it out. So I'm just going to hit it and wander down to this end of the table. And again, a lot of people would take that and they would shoot it as they would go ahead and shoot the 3, and then they've got nothing. So now I'm here. Again, I could probably make the 3. Going to be really hard to break it out. I'm going to play another safe. What I'm trying to do with these safeties is, this is the mental part of the game. What I'm trying to do with the safeties is I'm trying to leave the other guy without a shot long enough to either get ball in hand or get a leave where I can get back down here. It can be done from here, but again, very low percentage. I basically have to cut it back into that corner. Well, there's not enough room to get into this pocket, so I've got to cut it back into that corner. And then the cue ball is going to come down here. I'm going to have to draw it and then spin it down there. Way too much stuff to worry about. I'm just gonna duck. I'm gonna take that 3, and this time, since the cue ball is gonna go over there naturally, I'll probably just try to leave it behind the 6 and bring the 3 about halfway down the table. And that miscue, well, it wasn't a miscue, but that mistake on my part probably cost me this game, because now the other guy comes up, he assesses the table the same way. He's got a shot on the 3, he's on the right side of the 3, he can just roll down the table to here, and then he's got the breakout, and then he'll assess and see where he is after the breakout. So, nice and easy in. Lets it come up right into that area I was talking about. Now he gets the breakout. Now, with this angle, the question is, how does he get on the 5? And the answer to that is very carefully. I'm probably going to put bottom right on this, try to nip the 8 enough to let it roll up the table a little bit, and bring the cue down the table and around for this. So that's my breakout plan. There it is. I hit the 8, it rolled down a little ways. Cue ball came up, I've got a shot on the 5. Now, I just did a breakout, so I had no way of knowing where I was going to end up at the end of my breakout. And I could have planned that, I could have shot it a little softer maybe, and run the risk of getting hung up in the middle of it. But the bottom line is, the main thing is, now there's no more problem balls. So when I reassess this time, I'm looking to get out. I'm looking for, how am I going to get out? So I could be on either side of the 9 and it would work for the side pocket. Since the 8 ball's here, the easiest way to do it is to shoot the 8 and come up, which means that the cue ball needs to be somewhere down here. To get there, I have to be somewhere here for the 7. To get here for the 7, I really need to be out where I am right now, somewhere in this area for the 6. And to get to this area for the 6, I have to look at that 5 and say, how can I do that? Can I do that? And the answer is probably not from here. But what I can do is I can pocket the 5 and I can bring the cue and keep it at this angle, cut it in and go straight up the table. I just have to be careful of the scratch. So that's how I play this, is I put the 5 in that corner, keep the cue away from the 9 ball so I'm not behind it. And I actually screwed that up and would have been behind it and I would have had to reassess, but it's the other player's turn now. This becomes easier to bring up the table. It's got a really good, that's got a kind of good angle for doing this. Basically, I just use top right and come around the table. Well, hopefully, but didn't work out. I caught the corner, but guess what? I'm still in the same place. I don't even need to reassess because I'm right where I planned to be in the first place, or I'm on the right line that I planned to be. Shoot it in and come up the table. I shot that a little too thick, so I got a bad leave on this, but it's makeable, and I can get the ball where I wanted to have it anyhow, so no real sweat. I just have to make the tough cut. And it falls in. And then you can see I'm on my line for the 8. So again, I don't need to reassess. I can just shoot what I planned to shoot, which was to put it right over there on the 9 and then shoot the 9 in. Okay, so that's how you do basic table analysis. And we'll go ahead and I'll break a couple and I'll talk my way through it. And just go over this a couple of times. Now there's a cool drill that you can do with this, and it makes people at the pool hall kind of wonder what you're doing, and if you're really that good. And the way that it works is you break the balls, and if you have a plan that will take you all the way to the 9 ball, you just assume that you made it and go ahead and re-rack and re-break. And you keep doing that until you get problems, and when you have a problem ball, then you go ahead and shoot until you get to where you've got a clear rack. So we're going to do that exercise right now. The assumption is that you shoot perfectly, and the reason you do this exercise is not to increase your shooting skills, but to practice table analysis. Because honestly, if your table analysis is strong, you're already so far ahead of everybody else. So let's go ahead and break a few, and we'll do the analysis on them, and I'll show you, and we'll do it as if we're doing that drill. So there's my break. All right, table analysis. Can I make the 1? Very first question you have to ask yourself, can I make my first ball? And the answer here is yes. You're going to have to slow roll it pretty good, but you can make it. Okay, so are there any problem balls on this table? Well, looking at it, the 2 that you think might be problems are the 7 and the 8, and you're thinking that they're a problem because there are balls in the way, but the reality is that the balls that are in the way are actually going to be gone by the time you're shooting them. So there's no problem balls on this table. We start with the 9. We say, okay, where do we need to make the 9? And pretty much anywhere in here works. So how do we get there? Well, the easiest way to get there is if I'm on this side of the 8, and I shoot the 8 and it goes in, and the cue ball rolls up the table to here. So that's the easiest way to do it, is I'm about right in here, and I shoot the 8, and the cue ball just rolls up the table for the 9. That's the easiest way to do this. So I need to get there for the 8, so how do I do that? Well, there's a couple ways. I can be here on this line, shoot the 7, and the cue ball will just naturally drift up that way. Or I could be on this side and shoot the 7. And again, the cue ball naturally drifts up that way. Again, got to watch out for the scratch there, but that's okay. We're not real worried about that. So if I'm going to get on one of those lines, I can actually stop on the 6, and it puts me on a line to go to that side of the 8, which also works. So we're adapting our plan a little. We're going to be on this side of the 8. We're going to shoot and just come straight up the table. To get there, we're going to stop the cue when we shoot the 6 and shoot the 7 in. And so when we shoot the 6, If we're going to stop the ball there, we need to be somewhere in here for the 5 or somewhere over here for the 5 because we can stop that. The easiest side is going to be this side because we can shoot the 3 and just stop right in here. So we want to be somewhere, you know, roughly this area for the 3. In order to do that, we can either be on this side of the 2 or this side of the 2. I like this side of the 2 better. It's a more natural leave. Although either one works because here you can just go top and across. So either one works. And to get there, we just have to slow roll the one end. So we work backwards. We know that we're going to run this table. If we don't make a mistake shooting, we're done. Time to rack. That's all you do. Figure out the table, rack them up. Don't even bother shooting them. This is all about practicing your analysis, not your shooting. We'll do drills for shooting. Practicing shooting will come, but you need to spend some time also doing analysis and understanding how the table's coming together and how your patterns are looking and thinking your way through it so that this becomes second nature. We'll do one more, see how it turns out, maybe create a problem just so we can go through that exercise. Okay, on this one we've got a problem right off the bat. We're gonna have to shoot safe. Are there any problem balls here? Well, technically the 3 is a problem ball because you have to be in an extreme angle to be able to shoot it in. You're gonna have to be in this arc right here, you know, going out, somewhere in between these 2 lines. That's a little touch and go, so the 3's a problem anyhow. You can't make the 1 and get on the 2. You can't really make the 1. So you're going to play safe. Again, the idea behind playing safe is to gain an advantage by causing your opponent to miss and potentially give you ball in hand, but at least to give you a safe where you can keep ducking until they make a mistake, and then when they make, as Ray Martin once told me, you keep going until they make a mistake, and then you crucify them. So, so we're gonna play a little safe here and just run the cue down to the other end of the table. Maybe we get lucky. Okay, so yes, he has a shot, but he's got a long shot and he's got a long leave after the shot. So at this point, what that guy should be doing, let's assume that he's good enough that he's going to make this shot. What he's doing is he's starting to work backwards from the 3. Now the problem with this type of scenario is that you don't have very many balls before you have to make the 3 or play safe on it. And by the way, it is perfectly acceptable, and I should have mentioned this earlier, it's perfectly acceptable for your goal when you define it to be, I'm going to use the 3 to play safe. I'm going to make the 1, I'm going to make the 2, and then I'm going to play a safe from the 3. And so that's actually my goal here is I want to make the 1, I want to come up here, I want to make the 2, I want to drift down, and if I get good enough, I'll shoot it in. If I don't get good enough, if I end up here somewhere, I'll play safe off that side and around down there and hopefully end up okay. So, so right now, I'm playing for the shot, knowing that I've got a safe if I don't get the leave on the shot. So I'm going to go ahead and play it. Helps if you make it. Again, knowing how to practice. We'll just, if I miss a ball like that, I'm just going to put it in the pocket and keep going as if I had made it. Okay, so I ended up almost straight in on this. I'm going to try and drop it into that little angle I had. Okay, I actually got it there. That 3 is makeable from where I am. So now, remember, we're doing this as not for shooting practice, but for mental practice. So from here, I can start and say, okay, I'm going to put the 9 in this pocket. I'm going to do it by stopping the cue when I make the 8. In order to do that, I need to be either here or here on the 7. I need to be somewhere in this big old arc here. If I get straight on the 5 and I stop it, I'll be exactly in that arc. That'll be just fine. Maybe back it up just a little so that I can shoot the 7 a little cleaner. In order to get there to shoot that, I need to be at an angle somewhere up here or all the way down to the rail. There's always 2 sides to this. So I want to be up here somewhere. Now, when I do this, I'm going to want to go forward because I don't want to take a chance of hitting the 8 or the 9. I want a clear path to my leave. So I'm going to shoot, I'm going to get here, I'm going to shoot the 4 in there. The cue ball is going to come this way and bounce down and get in line down here. If it's off on this side, I'll shoot it, bounce it off the rail and come out. If it's on that side, I'll just draw it a little and let it drift across. I'm out from here. In order to get over here on the 4, because of the angle that I'm at, I'm going to actually have to go up and down the table, or I'm going to slow roll it with inside left English, so it hits, this goes in, and the cue ball just spins this way, and I'm going to hope I don't get too hard and hit that rail. But if I do, I should still be okay. I'll just have a little harder shot. So I now know my way out on this table. I'm going to shoot the 3, I'm going to slow roll it and spin, then I'm going to shoot the 4, I'm going to let the cue ball drift up. I'm either going to go this way and get my leave on the 5, or if I'm too straight up and down, I'll cut it and I'll come straight up somewhere down here. I'm going to stop on the 5, I'm going to hit the 7, and just let it bounce up a little ways. I'm going to shoot the 8 and stop, and then I'm going to put the 9 in. I'm done. Next rack. Again, don't have to shoot it. If there's a shot that comes up like right here, there's kind of a question in my mind whether I can hit it soft enough hard enough to make the 3, but soft enough to leave the cue ball there. I might go ahead and get out my spots. Remember the little book of spots I've got for marking the table? I might go ahead and try this. Hey, there's no reason you can't. So my 3 is right here. If I can get it to sit on the spot. My cue is right here. I might go ahead and set this up because I'm not sure that I can actually execute this shot. I'm not sure if it's possible to execute this shot, so I might want to try it and just see. Okay, that's a really bad angle on the 4. Maybe put it back there and say, okay, what about straight up and down the table? Again, I'm using the spots so I can recreate the exact same shot over and over. And I know I can hit that, but I need to hit that harder. So I can sit there and play with the shot that I'm not so sure I can make and do it over and over and over again until I know for sure whether the shot's makeable, whether I can make it, which is a whole different thing besides being makeable. Now, I can also say, okay, well, if I did that, this is where I'd be, and then I can reassess the table and say this is a safe I'd play. So that's the entire process of analysis. We'll talk about lines in another video. We'll talk about how to get those leaves. We'll talk about quite a few other pieces of this, but as far as looking at the table and figuring out what shots you want to shoot, that's the basics of it. Cueing the ball you're on, make sure you can make the shot you're looking at. Because if you can't make that, there's no reason to go any further, you just play safe. Identify problem balls. If there are problem balls, that becomes your goal. Or a safety becomes your goal, and you play to the safety. If there are no problem balls, then your goal is to run out. Then you start from the ball you start from whatever your goal is, and you work backwards to the ball that you're beginning with, and then you execute it. And after every shot, you assess, am I where I plan to be at this point? If not, can I get back to where I plan to be on the next ball? If not, should I actually shoot this ball, or should I pass on it and just play safe? I played a safe the other night in league that ultimately won me the game I was playing. I lost the match. I missed way too many shots, and we're going to talk about pool etiquette in a video because it drives me nuts. But basically I had a shot like this, but in order to get on my next shot, I had to draw between two balls that were about that far apart. And it wasn't a straight forward and back, it was, the cue was a little off center, I was going to be reaching, so I didn't even try to play it. I went safe that way without the double kiss. The 7 ended up here, the cue rolled up the table, and ultimately ended up behind the 9. For the next player, he missed the shot, and he missed his shot, and I won the game. And it was purely because I passed on this very, very easy shot to make, but very hard to leave. So that's where your analysis comes in. You got to think about what you're always wanting to win the game, and winning the game doesn't always mean pocketing a bunch of balls in a row. Sometimes it means deliberately not pocketing the ball and playing that safety instead. So anyhow, that's my analysis of the table. Every time you get up to the table, that's what you do. You do not do your analysis while you're down aiming at a shot. You always do your thinking on your feet. If you find yourself still questioning what you're doing when you're down on the ball, stand back up and figure it out. This will become faster over time. You'll get to learn what the patterns are and how they work, and some of the stuff we're going to do about leaves is going to help you with that. But ultimately, everything we do improves our game, and doing this kind of analysis makes us get used to doing the analysis. We'll do the analysis quicker, which if we get put on a shot clock will really help. And you'll get to where you do this naturally and you don't even think about it. You're just making your balls, and it just looks easy to everybody that's watching you because it's like you're not even having to think. You're just getting up and running balls. So anyhow, that is table analysis. One last time, cue in the ball that you're on, make sure you can make it. Identify problem balls, define your goal. Break out the problem, end the rack, or play a safety off a certain ball. You don't have to play safety on the ball you're on. I could have made the 7 and then played a safety on the 8 in that rack. Then you work from your goal back to your current ball. So you have a complete roadmap of how you get from where the table sits now to where you're going to give the other player the table or where you're going to win. Complete roadmap when you work from the goal back. Then you execute, and every shot you reassess. And that's it. So that's the basics of table analysis. I'm going to go into some of the various games and the differences in analysis because, for example, 9-ball, your roadmap is pretty much laid out for you. You have to shoot the lowest number ball on the table. That's true in rotation. That's true in 10-ball. Those games, table analysis is as basic as it gets. When we talk about 8-ball, when we talk about straight pool, and we're only going to talk very, very basically about straight pool. I know the game pretty well, but that said, I don't feel like I'm qualified to give you the whole picture on analysis of straight pool. So we'll talk about 8-ball, we'll talk about other rotation games like this, we will talk about, we'll talk about 3-ball, which is a gambling game. Basically, it's 3 balls on the table, you break them, and you shoot all 3 in, and you count the number of shots it takes to get them in. And then each player does the same thing, and when it's over, whoever has the lowest number of shots wins whatever's in the pot. If there's a tie, they play one tie, all tie. So if you're playing $1 a rack and you've got 8 people, sometimes that pot will get up to 50, 100 bucks because nobody wins. There's a bunch of ties. But anyhow, we'll talk about table analysis on the open table games like 3-ball. We may even talk some about cutthroat, because who knows, there might be some of you that play cutthroat out there. So anyhow, for today, that's the table analysis method that I use. It's pretty straightforward. It's easy to remember. Someday I'll come up with an acronym for it. CIDWER just doesn't work, which is what is up there right now, CIDWER. Someday I'll come up with a good acronym and I'll let you know when I do. But in the meantime, thank you very much. And again, hopefully you learned something here. And I'm always welcome for comments and questions. Just put those below and I'll try to answer those. And if you have improvements to this method, I'm always open to hearing other people's input and improvements. So thank you and have a great day.